Was there a serious challenger in the election, a serious opponent?
Is there a need for a serious opponent? Why?
Why is there no need for a serious opponent?
Why do you always think that the way you live is better than the way we live? Even the way you ask questions. Why don't you guys do the way we do it? Because we're not you, and we don't like you much, really.
This is my video update on this Tuesday afternoon, March the 26th. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off by sending our thoughts and prayers to the people of Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland, who may have been crossing the Francis Scott Key Bridge as that bridge collapsed. The pillar of the bridge was hit by a ship, and when that ship hit the pillar of the bridge, the entire bridge collapsed like a house of cards. Just the entire bridge, the entire structure, just completely broke apart, and there were cars traveling over that bridge. And our thoughts and prayers go out to the families of the victims of this tragedy, and let's hope that the people that were crossing that bridge, let's hope that it's not as bad as it looks. I haven't really been able to follow up on this story, but I did read that there are casualties, and so let's send our thoughts and prayers to the people of Baltimore, Maryland. An absolutely shocking video when that ship hit the bridge and the bridge completely collapsed. Absolutely shocking. But all right, so let's get to the next topic, which is EU Foreign Minister Jungle Joseph Borrell's interview with CNN's Christian Amanpour. And Christian Amanpour, international correspondent and a very sophisticated journalist, interviewed Jungle Joseph Borrell, and she asked Borrell, "What are you going to do if you don't get that $61 billion from the United States for Project Ukraine? What is the EU going to do? What is going on with the European Union now that the $61 billion to Project Ukraine is being held up?" And Jungle Joseph Borrell, he said that the EU has done its part. It's given money, it's given weapons, it's shown its support for Project Ukraine. And he also said that if the United States does not give the money to Project Ukraine and support for Project Ukraine and gives Russia a free, what's the word that he used? A free pass. If they give Russia a free pass, he said, well, look what happens when you give Russia a free pass. Look what happened in Crimea. Look what happened in Syria. We must not give Russia a free pass. Russia must lose. Ukraine must win. We have to get $61 billion to the Zelensky regime. I'm not quite sure what Borrell meant by giving a free pass to Russia in the case of Syria. I don't really understand what he means with that comment. Syria, the internationally recognized government of Syria, invited Russia to intervene in order to destroy ISIS, and that is exactly what Russia did. Russia intervened in Syria under the invitation of the internationally recognized government, and they subsequently destroyed ISIS. So is Borrell upset at the fact that Russia destroyed ISIS, that ISIS didn't take over Syria? I don't quite understand what he meant with that comment. But anyway, Borrell, he also said that it is in the U.S.'s security interest to to keep Project Ukraine going and to make sure that the 61 billion gets into the accounts of the Zelensky regime. Borrell actually said that that getting the 61 billion to Project Ukraine, it's not about the collective West's love for Ukraine. That's not what this is about. It's not about the love for Ukraine or the love for the Ukrainian people. What this is about, it is about the dominance, the power, the security interests of the collective West, and specifically the United States. And that is why the United States should continue to support Ukraine and should continue to give money and weapons to Project Ukraine. Basically, this response from Borrell was an admission. It was Borrell basically admitting that without the United States, the EU, they cannot keep Project Ukraine going. So they absolutely need the money, the weapons, and the support of the United States. Otherwise, Project Ukraine is finito. The EU is not strong enough to keep Project Ukraine up and running. And this was a bit of Borrell, I guess you could say, begging, pleading with the United States to please don't dump Ukraine on Europe. Don't dump Project Ukraine on Europe. Don't ditch Project Ukraine on us. Please continue to support Project Ukraine. We can't do it without you. So he was admitting that the EU cannot support Ukraine on its own, and he was also, in a way, pleading with the United States to please don't bail out on Project Ukraine. Please get the 61 billion to the Zelensky regime. Don't leave us. Don't leave us alone. Don't leave us alone, America. Biden White House. You promised us. You promised us, Biden White House. You sat across the dinner table. We had a nice meal. Wine. You looked in my eyes. And Biden White House, you promised for as long as it takes. Were those just words? Were those just words? Because as the European Union, as Jungle Joseph Borrell, I felt like you really meant it. You were sincere when you said for as long as it takes. We even destroyed our own economies. We even destroyed our own economies. We looked the other way when the Nord Stream pipeline was destroyed, was bombed. Because we believed you when you said for as long as it takes. Please don't walk out on us. Please don't bail on us now. I can't live if living is without you. That is what Borrell was basically telling the United States in this interview with a very sophisticated journalist and international correspondent, Christian Amanpour. And then Amanpour, this was an interesting exchange. And then Christian Amanpour, she asked Joseph Borrell, is the EU intel agencies? I didn't even know the EU had an intel agency. I guess they do. She's like, are the intel officials in the European Union, are they communicating with the Russian intel people with regards to the terrorist attack in Moscow? And Borrell said, and I quote, "Intelligence people cooperate with intelligence people." Yes. So according to Borrell, EU intel, once again, don't know. Don't know what that means. Maybe EU intel directed inwards at EU citizens. Yeah, but I didn't know that the EU had intel directed outwards. But anyway, he says that the EU intel is in communication with Russian intel. So that's what Borrell answered when asked by Christian Amanpour. And Karine Jean-Pierre, she was speaking to the media at the White House. And a reporter asked Karine Jean-Pierre about the warnings that the United States gave to Russia about the terrorist attack. And Karine Jean-Pierre, she said, yes, the United States absolutely gave a warning to Russian intel. She actually said that the United States, they had the March 7th warning to American citizens to not go to public events or concerts, which we all know about. That was posted on the government website and on social media. But Karine Jean-Pierre, she also implied, more than implied, she pretty much said that outside of that warning that was posted on the website, U.S. intel did communicate with Russian intel as well about the terrorist attack in Moscow. And then when the reporter asked Karine Jean-Pierre, can you elaborate on that? How exactly did U.S. intel communicate with Russian intel? Can you give us some details? Karine Jean-Pierre, she shut down the question, and she was just like, that's all I'm going to say. We put up the warning on the website to American citizens, and our intel communicated with the Russian intel, and she's like, that's that. I'm not going to say anything more.
In early March, the United States, this government, shared information with Russia about a planned terror attack in Moscow. We were very clear about that. On March 7th, we actually informed Americans in Russia did a public advisory, to be more specific. And, ISIS bears the sole responsibility here. The sole responsibility, and Mr. Putin understands that. We shared that with their government, and so there is no evidence, absolutely no evidence, that Ukraine was involved here.
How did you go about sharing that information? Was it through the State Department, U.S. Embassy?
I'm just not going to get into specifics. The U.S. government shared that with Russian authorities, and I'll just leave it there.
So that was an interesting exchange. Now, Alexander pointed out something very interesting. I think it's very interesting. The message that was posted on the U.S. State Department website, well, the message that the U.S. government put out on March the 7th, March the 8th, warning American citizens not to attend large gatherings or concerts. This was posted on March 7th, March 8th. But it was only for 48 hours. If this warning was posted on March 8th for 48 hours, what does it have to do with the terrorist attack that happened a couple of days ago? I think that's an excellent observation. I think it's an excellent observation. Not only that, I went back to some of Kirby's statements after the terrorist attack happened in Moscow, and he was asked by a reporter in the White House. They asked Kirby if the warning, and you can go find that video, and you'll see what I'm talking about. A reporter asked Kirby the warning that the U.S. government put out there posted on March 7th, March 8th. Is that connected to, or do you believe that was connected to this terrorist attack? And Kirby said no.
Not aware of any advanced knowledge that we had of this terrible attack.
On March 8th, the embassy warns of imminent attack in Moscow by extremists.
Yeah, I think that I'll let the State Department speak to that. But I don't think that was related to this specific attack.
The investigation in Russia is moving very, very quickly. And yesterday, Putin, he he made a statement on the progress of the investigation. He said the attack was carried out by radical Islamists. He said the investigation must be professional without any political bias. And then Putin basically said that we know who committed this act of terrorism. I'm paraphrasing what Putin said in his statement. We know who committed this act of terrorism, but we want to know who ordered it. And then Putin talked about the fact that the terrorists were in their white Renault trying to make their way to Ukraine. Why were they heading towards Ukraine? Putin once again asked that question, put out that statement. He also said that the United States, let me get you the exact quote, using various channels, the USA is trying to convince its satellites and other countries that according to their intelligence, there's no Kiev traces in Moscow terror attack, that the bloody attack was carried out by Islam followers, members of ISIS, an organization banned in Russia. Putin said, we know by whose hands this crime against Russia and its people was committed. What we want to know is who ordered it. This atrocity can only be a link in a chain of attempts by those who have been at war with Russia since 2014 through the Kiev regime, since the Maidan, since 2014 and the Maidan coup. This is a link in a chain. We know who committed this act. We want to know who ordered it. He's basically saying that the U.S. is trying to cover up. I mean, that's the way I'm reading it. Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but he's basically saying that the U.S. is trying to convince its satellites and other countries that there are no traces of Kiev in this terror attack. He's looking at Kiev. He's looking at Ukraine. That's the way I read his comment and his statement. And isn't it interesting? It's very interesting that Russia is using the fact, the Russian investigation and the Russian officials are using the fact that the terrorists were trying to make their way towards Ukraine as pretty damning evidence that there must be some link between Ukraine and these terrorists, or somebody in Ukraine, or some entity in Ukraine. Why else would they try to escape to Ukraine? How come they didn't try to escape to a Central Asian country? How come they didn't try to make their way to, I don't know, to Belarus? I don't know. Why didn't they just stay put in Moscow? Why did they try to make their way to Ukraine? What was waiting for them across the border? Who was waiting for them across the border if they would have made it to the border? A heavily guarded border, a border where there's an active conflict taking place. The collective West media, they're not reporting, they're not mentioning the fact that the terrorists were in their white Renault trying to drive to the border of Ukraine. The reporters did not ask Karine Jean-Pierre at the White House. They didn't ask her a very simple question. I think this would have been a great question for a reporter to ask Karine Jean-Pierre. What does the Biden White House think about the fact that the 4 terrorists got in a white Renault and made their way, or tried to make their way to the border of Ukraine? Was it 4 terrorists in the car or 3? I think 1 terrorist may have been apprehended at the Crocus City Hall. Anyway, why did the terrorists get in the white Renault and try to escape to Ukraine? Please answer, Karine Jean-Pierre. What does the White House think about that fact? No one is asking that question. Collective West media is not reporting about this. They're not even mentioning this fact. Most of the reporting from the Collective West media on the terrorist act in Moscow, they focus on the U.S. warning. That's what they focus on. A 48-hour warning given on March 7th and March 8th. And many reports that I've read, if not all the reports that I've read from the big mainstream media publications, don't even mention the attempted getaway towards the border with Ukraine, which to me is, I mean, you want evidence? I think that's where you start, and that appears to be where the Russian investigation is also starting, with that one piece of evidence, which is a big piece of evidence. They got in their car and they wanted to escape to Ukraine. Now, does it mean that the Ukrainian government is involved in this? No. Does it mean that Ukraine Intel is involved in this? No. Does it mean that the SBU, the GUR, Ukraine oligarchs? No, I don't know. No one, I don't know. No one knows. The Russian investigators, I think, know, but I don't know. You don't know. But obviously, something or someone was waiting for them on the other side of that border. And that's what Putin means when he says, we know who did this. We want to know who ordered this. We want to know who was waiting for them on the other side of that border. And it looks like, it really does look like Russia is getting closer every single day to finding out who was waiting for these terrorists on the other side of that border. Yesterday, we had Turkish officials arrest 40 allegedly ISIS terrorist members. This, from what I understand, this was on the request of the Russian government. 40 ISIS terrorists, allegedly. They were ISIS. Whoa, what was that? Allegedly, they were ISIS terrorists, but 40 arrests in Turkey. We had 4 additional arrests, or 4 additional suspects were brought to the court. Arrests were brought to the courts in Moscow. A father, 2 sons, and then another person today was brought to the Moscow court. These are 4 people of the total 7 who were part of this 11-person terrorist cell. So you have 7 people who were apprehended, who were not at Crocus City Hall. This is my understanding of things. 7 people who were not at Crocus City Hall, who were involved in this terrorist attack, who supported this terrorist attack, from my understanding, allegedly supported this terrorist attack. And then you had the 4 terrorists. 4 of these 7 people have now made an appearance in the court. A father, 2 sons, and then another person. The father and the sons, from what I understand, from what I read, they are the people that allegedly rented the Renault to the terrorists. So they provided the vehicle. And the person that appeared in court today, from my understanding, is the person that rented the apartment to the terrorists. So they got the vehicle, they got the apartment, they got the people who provided these things to the terrorists, and they appeared in court today. Things are moving really fast, and yesterday we also had some news that a Moscow court is charging in absentia an SBU, a Ukraine SBU official, a very high-ranking SBU official, the head of the SBU, who goes by the name of Vasily Malyuk. And this guy, from what I understand, he was talking up. I don't know if he took credit for, if he was boasting, if he was talking up, but he was talking about the assassinations of the assassination attempt. It's the church bell. It's the church bell. He was talking up the assassination attempt of Zakhar Prilepin and the assassination of Tatarsky. And a Moscow court has now issued an arrest of the head of the SBU, Malyuk, who confirmed Kiev's involvement in a number of terrorist attacks in Russia at the request of the investigation. So this has got to be connected to what's going on with the investigation into the terrorist attacks at Crocus City Hall. It has to be connected. This guy's a head of one of the heads, or the head of the SBU. So everything is pointing towards Kiev, towards Ukraine. That's where the Russians are taking this. And we had Patrushev, who's the secretary of the Security Council, just about as top level senior Kremlin official as you can get. He was walking out of a meeting where they were discussing the terrorist attack, the investigation, and he was asked by a reporter, ISIS or Ukraine? And he walked by the reporter and he said, Ukraine. So yesterday we had an interesting development in the war in Ukraine, and many people are starting to believe, to think that the gloves might finally be coming off with regards to how Russia has been conducting this special military operation. And I wonder if this is gonna move from a special military operation to something more. We'll see as the investigation moves along if this is going to change from a special military operation to something more devastating. Because yesterday, what happened in Kiev, in the city, the center of Kiev, as well as the airport, was pretty devastating, pretty remarkable. And I think what happened yesterday, I think this is the first time that this has happened in the 2 years of the conflict. Basically, Russian missiles, hypersonic Zircon missiles, from what I understand, it was a Zircon missile. They took out one of the offices of the SBU and intelligence officials. And yesterday was SBU Day. It was a celebration for the intelligence community in Ukraine, SBU Day, and there were probably, I read that there were a lot of intel officials and SBU guys in this building celebrating SBU Day, and the Russian military sent a hypersonic missile right into that building, pinpoint accuracy, flattened the building. A lot of casualties from what I've read. A lot of people being taken to Poland for medical attention. But the Ukraine air defense was completely helpless. They didn't have any time to react. They didn't even see this coming. By the time the missile actually registered, 2 seconds later, it had hit this SBU building or headquarters or whatever this was. But the interesting part is that we're talking about a building located in Kiev. And I don't think the Russians have, I'm actually pretty positive, the Russian military has not sent missiles, especially a hypersonic missile, into an urban area and into a Ukraine government building. I think this was a first. And even Kiev Mayor Klitschko, he actually went to the site of the missile strike, and he started to record with his mobile phone. He started to record the devastation, and you could see all the rubble around Mayor Klitschko. And then the Russians, once again with missiles, they took out 2 Patriot air defense systems located at the airport. Took them out. So it was a devastating day for the Zelensky regime, for the Ukraine intel services. A devastating day, and you gotta imagine that the collective West leadership they're looking at what happened yesterday, and they've got to be just petrified, nervous, frightened, petrified at what they saw Russia do yesterday. Now, does this mean that the gloves are coming off and that Russia is going to start targeting city centers, urban areas, and Ukraine government buildings and Ukraine leadership? I don't know. Or is this a one-off? I don't know. Don't know. We're going to wait and see exactly what this missile strike meant, what it means going forward, and we'll take it from there. But wow, what a show of power from the Russian military. Anyway, let's talk about some other big news from today that came in today, this afternoon from the UK, which is the Assange verdict. One second. Assange wins right to appeal extradition to US. So a British High Court ruled that Assange can mount a final UK challenge against extradition to the US to face trial for publishing secret diplomatic and military files. The publisher stands accused of espionage and is facing up to 175 years in jail. So wow, a big win. I think this is a big win for Assange. I would have liked to have seen the UK court release Assange as he fights this appeal. I think that would have been the right thing to do, the humane thing to do. But from what I understand, he's going to have to remain in prison. But at least he has the right to fight the extradition. And before we get to kind of clown worlds, I'm not sure if today I actually have clown world stories, but let's see. You can let me know if these are clown worlds. But before I get to the clown worlds, let's just talk about what happened with Trump. He had the amount for his bond reduced by the courts. It was at like 560 million, 565 million, or whatever it was, and the courts reduced it to 175 million. And it looks like Trump will be able to get that bond or put up the cash. So he looks like he's all good there. And then Trump got $3 billion or $3.5 billion richer because Truth Social was allowed to list on was it the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ? I'm not sure where Truth Social, or this company, this social media company that Trump has, where it was allowed to list, but it has been allowed to list, and it's going public, and Trump's shares amount to something like $3.5 billion. The company is trading under the ticker DJT, Donald J. Trump. And Trump is now worth something like $6.57 billion. $3 billion, just like that. They try to make him poorer, and he actually ends up becoming richer. Oh boy, so let's do, how are we doing on time? Yeah, let's wrap this up. Let's do a couple of very quick clown worlds, if these are clown worlds. P. Diddy, P. Daddy, Puff Daddy, Puff Diddy. I don't know what his name is right now, but the FBI are raiding his homes, or they did raid his home in Los Angeles and in Florida, I believe Miami. Now, I've kind of been following this story, but I won't get into any of the details. You guys can look it up, but P. Diddy might be in P trouble. I don't know. I don't know what is going on here, but I kind of know what's going on here, but I don't know if it's true, if I believe it. There hasn't really been much information that has been released about these FBI raids. But from what I understand, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, was on his private jet when the FBI was raiding his home in Los Angeles and Miami. So I thought that was just an interesting story. It's not looking good for the Puff Daddy, that's for sure. If if what I read about P. Diddy turns out to be true, I don't know, then it's not looking good for him. Anyway, someone is out to get P. Diddy, it seems. Maybe he's getting scapegoated. I don't know. I will leave it there. The final story, which is kind of a clown world, maybe not, is David Cameron's message that he put out there yesterday, directed at China, where Lord Cameron said that the UK is going to start sanctioning China because China is spying, espionage, or something like that. And so Lord Cameron, he said that the UK is now sanctioning China. So China, beware. Anyway, that is the video, everybody. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. Take care.